Here, Doug Williams says you can manipulate the test and pass with flying colors. First on Fox at 9:30, Fox 25. Scott Wasserman joins us with how to beat a polygraph.
Well, Jack, it would be unethical to tell you exactly how to beat it, but the bottom line is that you can control it with breathing and the tightening of certain muscles. Doug Williams says it only takes 15 minutes to end someone's lifelong goal of a certain career.
Is your first name Brent?
Can you read between the lines to tell the truth? It's Brent Quinones' first lie detector test, and he's lying to help Doug Williams prove a point.
He can keep calm when he's lying. He can show a reaction when he needs to show a reaction, and they have to compare the reaction.
It took only a few minutes for Doug to teach Brent how to control the test. Control your breathing when asked a relevant question, such as, have you ever speeded? During controlled questions, is today Tuesday? Cause a reaction by tightening a muscle. The theory is, if you have a reaction on a controlled question that's greater than a relevant question, you're telling the truth.
I thought it was kind of ironic that something so simple could screw up something that's supposed to be so technical.
There's some sad, sad stories about this polygraph. Well over 60% of honest, truthful people are called liars. And the more honest you are, the more likely you are to flunk it, and the more of an old thief you are, and the more hardened your conscience, the better your chances of passing it.
How to Sting the Polygraph, that's Doug Williams' website. You can find it at polygraph.com. He claims to get more than 25,000 hits on it a day and more than 50 emails a day from people who failed the test and want justice. The Supreme Court does not allow polygraphs in evidence of courts because they are, quote, no better than a flip of the coin. So Williams continues to ask why they can be used to hire or not hire somebody. Jack, back to you.
Well, it'll continue to fuel the debate over polygraphs. Thank you very much.
Tonight, I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Just how easy is it to lie and get away with it? This woman says she can read your body language and know for sure. And is it possible to beat a lie detector test?
It's a sad, sick joke, this antiquated last vestige of witchcraft.
What if you were hooked up to a polygraph machine, with police detectives watching your every move, professionals trained to detect fact from fiction? That would be a different story. Or would it? Michael Shermer gets an inside look at the science of life.
The truth or not.
It's a sad, sick joke simply because many people's lives, their careers, and even our national security is hanging in the balance over this antiquated last vestige of witchcraft.
The truth or not.
What the polygraph actually records in scientific terms is what's known as the fight or flight response. It's when your autonomic nervous system processes a shot of adrenaline, causes your breathing to become somewhat erratic, your blood pressure to increase, and your GSR to increase. This does not mean, however, that you have lied. It just means that you have been confronted with some stimuli that elicits this response. This stimuli could be that you have lied, but it could also be nervousness, fear, rage, embarrassment.
Doug Williams is a former detective sergeant and polygraph examiner with the Oklahoma City Police Department. One of the many flaws he sees with the polygraph is branding someone a liar based on control questions.
Let's compare, for example, the relevant question, did you rape Susie? With the question, can you drive a car? Or did you eat breakfast this morning? My problem with that is that there is not any way you can devise a control question that is the same emotional impact as a relevant question.
During his 10 years on the force, Doug conducted over 6,000 polygraph exams. He set out to prove to me that the polygraph is not reliable by actually hooking me up to the machine and showing me how to produce a truthful chart.
Are you a resident of the United States?
Yes. Prior to the exam, Doug taught me breathing and muscle techniques. These techniques are known as countermeasures.
Have you ever been taught countermeasures?
No. That's a bold-faced lie, but according to Doug, I'll still be deemed truthful if my reaction to the next control question is greater than my reaction to the previous lie.
Is your first name Michael?
Yes. In order to elicit a reaction, I employ the countermeasures Doug taught me. I increase my breathing and tighten my muscles.
Let me just show you here what you've done, Michael. As I'm writing here, that's when I'm asking you a question. This is when you answer, and so on. So this is your first question. Do you live in the United States?
Yeah.
Are you a resident of California?
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
Have you ever been taught countermeasures?
I lied there, it shows nothing.
And then is your first name Michael.
Wow.
Massive increase, perfect breathing staircase at the highest GSR.
This
It's
is
just an absolutely perfect, beautiful textbook classic chart.
I lied during my test, but according to Doug, the polygraph said I told the truth.
Most process.
Which is exactly what Doug wants.
Not only do I teach people how to beat it, and I tell those in positions of authority that I'm doing what I'm doing and why I'm doing what I'm doing in hopes that they will quit using them because they know how easy it is to be manipulated. Do you live in California?
Doug ran me through the polygraph 4 more times, and each time I was able to produce a, quote, truthful chart.
That makes me very skeptical of this machine.
As well you should be. It's like the old Tom T. Hall song. If you want to find a thief, you just hang them all and let God sort it out. And that's what the polygraph does. It just hangs them all.
As a result of this concern, the Employee Polygraph Protection Act was passed into law in late 1980.
Confession getter. It's a very good psychological billy club. It's something that you can use to coerce a person into confessing and divulging all sorts of information, but it still does not detect deception because they're still based on the same false theory that there is a reaction that indicates deception, and there is no scientific evidence to support that theory.
People who offer high-tech solutions, all kinds of fancy gizmos that promise a way to give you the answer, that's a very appealing promise to be able to make, but they're dead wrong.
There's little debate that the polygraph effectively measures increases in heart rate, breathing, and perspiration, and that these increases may occur when someone is lying. But does it prove 95 to 99% of the time that someone is being deceptive? In my experience, not even close.
NBC News in depth tonight. To tell the truth, when it comes to law enforcement, it is not a game, of course. It can be a matter of life and death. At the Supreme Court today, the justices heard arguments for and against one method of trying to find out who is telling the truth. Polygraphs, lie detectors. They've been around for a long time now, 75 years, but a majority of states don't allow polygraph tests in criminal trials because the results are not always reliable. Should they be allowed? Are they accurate?
Judging by their questions today, the justices were skeptical, many saying it's up to juries, not machines, to decide if someone in court is telling the truth. Pete Williams, NBC News at the Supreme Court.
Now to the view from a very vocal crusader against lie detector tests, a man who once made his living giving them. Doug Williams says he conducted more than 6,000 polygraph exams as an Oklahoma City police officer, but after 10 years, he says he realized they were no good. Now he claims that he can teach anybody to beat a lie detector test. Doug Williams tonight, in his own words.
When I left the police department and quit running polygraph examinations, I found out, number one, what I did for a living was a fraud. The polygraph is not a lie detector. If I can teach someone in 20 minutes, and I can, how to do it, then it is not a lie detector. What I do is I just teach people how to manipulate a physiological response to fear. Only I tell them to do it at the appropriate time, and I tell them to do it when it's needed to show on the chart. Then all they have to do is make a nice, calm, even breathing pattern, and they have produced what the polygraph examiner expects to see from a truthful subject. There is no such thing as a Pinocchio effect. Your nose does not start to grow longer when you have lied. Your blood pressure does not necessarily increase when you have lied. Your breathing does not become erratic when you have lied. Your hands do not become sweaty when you have lied. The same thing that happens when you go out on your first date. The same thing happens when you're at a football game and your team has just scored. All of those are physiological responses that have to do with a stimulus that gives a shot of adrenaline. And all the polygraph examination is a crude instrument. There should be no reason for this polygraph test to ever be administered to anyone. It's giving a scientific validity to something that is really nothing more than the last vestige of witchcraft.
Former Oklahoma City police officer turned polygraph opponent Doug Williams tonight, in his own words. This footnote, the Supreme Court is expected to issue a ruling on the polygraph question probably in July.